My sister announced her engagement at my wedding reception. My new husband's response made her leave in tears. I, 31F, never thought my wedding day would end like this. It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. After dating for 5 years and being engaged for another 2, I was finally marrying my best friend. We'd saved for ages to have our dream wedding. Nothing extravagant, just elegant and meaningful, surrounded by our closest family and friends. The ceremony went perfectly. I nearly cried when I saw him waiting at the altar, looking at me like I was the only person in the room. We exchanged our vows and everything felt right, like the universe had finally aligned for us. Then came the reception. The venue was beautiful. A renovated barn with string lights hanging from wooden beams, wildflower centerpieces on each table, and a dance floor that I couldn't wait to step onto for our first dance. Everyone was having a great time, laughing, drinking, and celebrating with us. My sister and I have always had a complicated relationship. She's 3 years younger, and throughout our lives, there's been this unspoken competition between us. At least, that's how it felt to me. Every accomplishment of mine was quickly overshadowed by something she did. When I graduated college, she announced her study abroad program in Paris. When I got promoted at work, she changed careers to something more fulfilling. I've tried not to let it bother me, tried to be supportive and happy for her successes. But this time, she crossed a line I never imagined she would. We had just finished dinner, and it was time for toasts. My dad gave a heartfelt speech that made me tear up. My husband's best man told embarrassing stories that had everyone laughing. My maid of honor, my best friend since childhood, raised a glass to our future. It was perfect, until my sister stood up, uninvited, glass in hand. I felt a knot form in my stomach. This wasn't planned. She wasn't supposed to give a toast. I have something I'd like to say, she announced, her voice slightly slurred from the champagne she'd been drinking steadily since the ceremony. The room quieted down, all eyes on her. I glanced at my husband, who gave me a reassuring smile, though I could see the confusion in his eyes. First, congratulations to my sister and her new husband, she began, and for a moment I thought maybe this would be okay. You two are perfect for each other, and I'm so happy for you both. She paused, and I should have known what was coming next. The shift in her expression, the way she smiled a little too widely. And since we're all gathered here, all the people we love most in the world, I have some news of my own to share. My heart sank. No, she wouldn't. Last night my boyfriend proposed. She thrust her left hand into the air, a diamond ring catching the light. We're engaged. The room fell silent. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My husband's hand tightened around mine under the table. Some of the guests, mostly her friends, started to clap awkwardly. Others looked uncomfortable, eyes darting between my sister and me. My mother's face was frozen in a pained smile. I didn't know how to react. Part of me wanted to scream, to tell her how selfish she was being. Another part of me wanted to cry. But I just sat there, stunned into silence. That's when my husband stood up. Everyone looked at him. He's always been the calm one, the voice of reason, the peacemaker. I expected him to say something diplomatic, to smooth over the awkwardness like he always does. Instead, he looked directly at my sister and said, I think you've misunderstood what today is about. This is our wedding day. The one day that's supposed to be about us. Not you. His voice wasn't angry. It was calm, measured, but firm. And that made it all the more powerful. I've watched for years how you've tried to overshadow every important moment in your sister's life. And I've stayed quiet because it wasn't my place to say anything. But now she's my wife, and I won't stand by and let you take this day from her too. My sister's face flushed. I was just sharing some good news. I didn't think it would be a big deal. Then you weren't thinking at all, my husband replied. If you want to announce your engagement, do it tomorrow. Or next week. Or literally any other day that isn't your sister's wedding. I could see tears welling up in my sister's eyes. Part of me felt bad for her. But a bigger part of me was grateful that someone had finally said what I'd been feeling for years. I think you owe your sister an apology, he finished. The room was so quiet you could hear the ice clinking in the glasses. My sister looked around, perhaps expecting someone to defend her. No one did. Fine, she snapped, gathering her purse. If that's how you feel, then congratulations on your perfect day. I'm leaving. She stormed out, her boyfriend trailing behind her, looking embarrassed. Several people at her table awkwardly got up to follow. For a moment, I thought the reception was ruined. The energy in the room had shifted so dramatically. But then my husband turned to the band and asked them to play our song, the one we'd chosen for our first dance. He took my hand and led me to the dance floor. As we swayed to the music, he whispered, I'm sorry if I overstepped, but I couldn't let her do that to you. Not today. I looked up at him, this man who had just stood up for me in a way no one ever had before, and I felt a wave of love so strong it nearly knocked me off my feet. Thank you, I whispered back. The party continued. People danced, laughed, and celebrated. My sister's dramatic exit became a distant memory as the night went on. But when we got back to our hotel room that night, I broke down. All the emotions I'd been holding back came flooding out. Do you think I should call her? I asked him, sitting on the edge of the bed in my wedding dress, makeup streaked from tears. He sat beside me, taking my hand. That's up to you. But from where I stand, you have nothing to apologize for. She does. The next morning, I woke up to dozens of messages from family and friends. Most were congratulations and thanks for a beautiful wedding. But there were a few from my parents concerned about the scene that had unfolded. My sister had apparently called my mom in tears, saying I'd humiliated her in front of everyone. That my husband had been cruel and unfair. That I'd always been jealous of her, and this proved it. My mom, ever the peacekeeper, suggested I call my sister and smooth things over. For the sake of family harmony, she said. But for the first time in my life, I didn't feel the need to be the one who compromised. Who gave in. Who apologized for someone else's bad behavior. Mom, I said firmly, what she did was wrong. She tried to hijack my wedding to make it about her. I'm not apologizing for that. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then, to my surprise, my mom said, You're right. I'll talk to her. It's been 2 weeks since the wedding. My sister and I still haven't spoken. Our family group chat is awkwardly silent. My parents walk on eggshells when they talk to either of us. My husband thinks she'll eventually come around, realize she was in the wrong, and apologize. I'm not so sure. Admitting fault has never been her strong suit. But here's the thing, I'm okay either way. For the first time, I feel like I have someone truly in my corner. Someone who sees the dynamic for what it is, and isn't afraid to call it out. Yesterday, I got a text from my sister's boyfriend, fiancé, I guess. He apologized for what happened and said he had no idea she was planning to announce their engagement at our wedding. He said he was embarrassed and would have stopped her if he'd known. I believe him. My sister has always been impulsive, doing whatever feels right in the moment without considering the consequences. I haven't decided how to respond to him yet. Part of me wants to wish them well and move on. Another part of me is still hurt and angry. For now, I'm focusing on the beginning of my marriage. On building a life with the man who stood up for me when I couldn't stand up for myself. On setting boundaries that should have been set long ago. Maybe someday my sister and I will repair our relationship. Maybe we'll even laugh about this someday, though I doubt it. Or maybe this was the final straw in a relationship that's been fraying for years. Either way, I know now that I'm not alone. And that makes all the difference. So, am I the asshole for letting my husband confront my sister at our wedding reception? For not calling her afterward to make peace? For standing my ground instead of giving in like I always have? I don't think so. But I'd like to hear what others think. Edit *, wow, I didn't expect this post to blow up like it did. Thank you all for your supportive comments and for validating what I've been feeling. To answer some common questions. 1. Yes, my sister has always been like this. Some of you mentioned narcissistic tendencies, and while I'm not qualified to diagnose her, the patterns are definitely there. 2. No, my parents have never really called her out on her behavior. They've always made excuses. That's just how she is, or she doesn't mean any harm. 3. My husband and I are going to couples therapy, not because we have problems, but because we want to start our marriage with healthy communication. Our therapist actually praised him for setting a boundary while remaining respectful. For those suggesting I go no contact with my sister, I'm considering it, at least temporarily. I need time to process everything. 5. And yes, despite the drama, it was still the best day of my life. Because it showed me exactly why I married this man. Update *, it's been about a month now, and I wanted to share what's happened since my original post. My sister finally reached out last week. No apology, just a text asking if we could move past this drama. I told her I needed a genuine acknowledgement of what she did wrong before we could move forward. She read the message but hasn't responded. My husband and I just got back from our honeymoon. Coming home to reality has been an adjustment, but we're figuring it out together. Thank you again for all your support. It helped more than you know.